So, Reflector. My original idea for Reflector hasn't actually changed. I've only really added onto it, giving him more of a backstory. But my original concept was you have Reflector, and he was cloned by the Decepticons to make an army. Now, I'm just going to show 3 here, but realistically there'd be many. And they'd all not have any sparks. So they'd be these sparkless drones, mindless drones, just used as cannon fodder. Think just like any sort of mindless, just army building thing from any of the shows, really. But the main Reflector would have a ability to take his consciousness and put it inside of any of these clones. I imagined that his body would be held in some sort of test tube or just some sort of thing to keep his body safe and also maybe make it easier to clone him from. But there was always something that didn't really sit right with me. Why would he have the ability to put his mind into clones of himself? Like, that doesn't... It never really sat right, because it's like, how does he figure it out? And also, why would he he needs to rely on clones being made of him to be able to do that? There was also another thing, is that I wanted to use these designs. It's Spyglass, Spectro, and Viewfinder, but I don't remember which one's which. I wanted to use these designs. So ultimately, I came up with the idea that there is one singular Reflector character. This guy. This is Reflector. But he has the ability to split his body into 3 separate bodies. These 3. And his mind also gets split between those bodies, basically creating 3 different characters, each of whom have some sort of element of Reflector's main identity. Sort of, in a way, think of animated Starscream's clones, where each of them sort of represent a part of him, but only amongst 3. The key thing here, though, is that Reflector's actual consciousness doesn't get split between the bodies. His consciousness can only possess one body at a time, meaning that the other 2 bodies are basically just mindless and just basically follow whatever the main one does. But he can move his consciousness between bodies to, for whatever reason. Maybe one of them's really smart, one of them is something else, and he can use them tactically. I do imagine, though, that something will happen and he will want to go to Shockwave to get this sort of fixed. He doesn't like this. So I imagine there'd maybe be some sort of scare where one of his bodies gets damaged and he doesn't know what will happen if either the body dies or if he merges back together with one of them being injured. So he goes to Shockwave and he's like, is there anything you can do basically to keep my identity together? And Shockwave's like, I'll only help you if you let me experiment on you or whatever. And eventually Shockwave is like, okay, I figured something out. It will allow you to keep your consciousness or keep your identity together. It'll also allow you to have way more clones than just the 3 bodies, more than just 3 bodies. The only downside is that you won't be able to make them on command. And that's how we get to this scenario, where there are multiple of these bodies. Shockwave clones him, realizes that he can put his consciousness into clones. It doesn't split his consciousness, but he does still have the ability to split these duplicate bodies into the 3 bodies as well. But again, his identity will be split between the 3 bodies. So I think that's basically it for this little Reflector thing that I came up with. I quite like it. I think it's an interesting take on Reflector to have all 4 of these bodies, the 2 different types, reflected. That pun not intended.